stream is live, so if you guys want to watch, it's twitch.tv/it's Lockwood for right now. Obviously, until I figure out a better name for the stream, but also keeping it kind of gaming. All right, Smith, go ahead. It's live.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the PnC Dynasty podcast. I am your co-host, Smith, and the main host who, for whatever reason, decided to let me do the introduction today. Vinny Lockwood is joining me, and joining us as guest on the podcast today and a live stream, might I add, are Parker and Haj, two of the more intriguing teams in PnC. Gentlemen, welcome. It's good to have you on.
Yeah, welcome.
Excited for this episode. Let's get to it.
Hodge's team is trash. I just want to start the episode coming full force at him. He's bad and doesn't know how to manage a football team. Thank you.
Wow, I like it. I like how this
All
is
right,
already starting.
Parker's coming in last place, and guess what? I have his pick for next year. So.
Oh, wow. Wow.
It's
Okay.
gonna be
All
like
right.
that.
So,
Okay.
guys, we have a whole episode. Don't worry. We have some questions to go off of for Parker and Haj, but I'm sure that there will be some questions that come up in the meantime. And if any of you are looking and want to ask questions in the chat, be our guest. But I'll start with the first one and ask Parker and Haj this, and whoever wants to go first, be my guest. But lots of trades, lots of free agent signings, lots of waiver claims, draft picks, you name it. With all the moves that you guys have made, where do you guys see yourselves for this season coming up?
I'll start it off. With the trades that I've made, I'm obviously in win now mode, so I would hope to be in the top 6 this season and try to make up for our playoff push.
Okay, so you said you were a win now, but you said you want to be top 6. Is that a win for you, being top 6, or
no? A win for me is to win the league, but anything can happen in the playoffs. So at the bare minimum, I need to be top 6. Okay. So to go off, the biggest trade that I made this offseason was for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I stacked up 5 first-rounders within the 2022 draft and 2023 draft. I actually got Clyde Edwards-Helaire from our friend Parker here on the podcast for Odell Beckham, 2 first, and Harrison Butker. Along with that, I got Robert Woods from Smith. What was our trade? It was Traquan Smith, first.
Oh, God.
So,
yeah.
I guess that's fair value, I guess. But I'm using those 2 pieces. Robert Woods is my wide receiver 1, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire is my first flex option. So hopefully that could put my team into a winning position later on in the season.
Awesome.
Now, just another follow-up question. Would you consider your starting lineup to be your strength, or would you consider it your overall depth to be your strength, meaning that you can mix and match? Or are you going to be relying on your top-end guys, thinking that those are the guys that can carry you and win without having to mix and match?
Hold on, Aj. Before you do answer that, I don't believe anyone really knows who you guys are. So we might want to kind of introduce, obviously, your team name, because that will be on the website, and then maybe your key players on the team, and then you can answer that question if you remember it after.
Yep. So I'm Hodge, guys. I'm the owner of King of Queens. My key players are Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Robert Woods, and Matthew Stafford.
Not Joe Burrow. Interesting.
No, boy, yeah.
Not Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's on the bench, man. Joe Burrow's on the bench. So. And what was your question again, Smith?
My question is, do you
do
you think your starting lineup is going to be the thing that carries you, or is it more so your depth, how you can mix and match?
I mean, I would like to say I have depth, but in
What's up,
reality,
Derek?
that's not true. So
They can't hear me.
I'll,
Only the
I'll
stream
say
can
my
hear me.
starters will hopefully carry me throughout the season. The only solid player I have off my bench right now is Tyler Boyd. I did draft Kadarius Toney in the second round, hoping that he gets playing time and opportunity with maybe injuries to like Sterling Shepard and Kenny Galladay, but who knows with that? But
It does look like half of that prophecy is true. Kenny Galladay.
oh, he
I
did.
think,
He got hurt already.
Yeah, Vinny, what was it? He hurt his leg or something?
No, he didn't really. I mean, there's no insane news and
seen-
update on it, but
seen
he was.
walking off the field with trainers.
Yes, he was seen walking off the field with trainers after grabbing at his hamstring slightly, but then he jogged and ran off the field. So, probably
Wow,
just a
that-
little uncomfortable. He was just uncomfortable. I'm hoping, but we'll see. Because same thing with Julio. Julio Jones also has been out of practice yesterday and today. So, but it's all right.
Well, all of the news coming out of any training camp right now is just going to be immediately injected into everyone's bloodstream.
Exactly.
The slightest twinge of anything, you can't
Agreed.
trust anything that's coming out right now, good or bad.
Because it's the only news that we're getting right now for football, and it's a month away from the season, so we're just taking everything.
Well, you do have that Colts news, right? Where they lost Wentz, they lost that high-end guard. So they've lost two key components of their offense already. So it's difficult to differentiate what is serious and what isn't serious until it actually hits you like, oh, Carson Wentz has a foot injury. Oh, he's out for 5 to 12 weeks. That just kind of hit us. So, but anyway.
At the same time, though, you have to look at overall impact, and a lot of the time when these are reported in headlines, you'll see player X is out for X amount of weeks, but that's from the point of injury or surgery. So in the case of Wentz and Quentin Nelson, I believe was the guard that was injured, they're both going to be there probably by at the latest week 3. So a lot of this is overblown still from the perspective of this is the only news we're getting, so we might as well just put a headline out to get clicks.
Right.
Yeah, that is the role of sports media these days. So not surprised to hear that. Parker, I'll ask the same question I asked Taj to you, kind of with all the moves you made, and why don't you, before you answer this question, kind of recap what you did this offseason, draft picks, trades, etc. Once you do that, just kind of give us your overview of where you think you are heading into this season.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'll take all the pieces that are floating out there in terms of questions that Haj answered and try to put them in a clear order. My team name is the Bus Boys. Some of my key players that were either drafted recently, drafted last year at our startup, or were acquired via trade in this past season. Najee Harris, Jonathan Taylor, Jamar Chase. Love George Kittle. Love Deontay Johnson. A lot of young core to be built around right there. And I think that one of the reasons why I'm aiming to have such a young core is just because I came in last and I don't expect to compete anytime this season versus next year. I get a little bit more depth. I get a piece here or there. And I think that I could be within striking distance of a low playoff seed. So at most this year, I'm aiming to get 9th place, let's say.
At most?
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, at most.
At most, 9th place. So you believe that you'll be 9th to 12th again?
I mean, I believed I was going to be 1 last year, and then a bunch of injuries happened.
Yeah. So you're then for a bet, you're expecting to be 9th or to 12th.
I mean, I can't get disappointed if I come any higher than 9th if I set my expectations at 9th.
Agreed. Okay. That's interesting.
The good old lawyer, under promise, over perform. I like it.
Watch Michael Thomas be ready week 1.
Oh God.
Wink.
Can we talk about that for a second? Like, what the heck happened? Because it seems like he could have had this surgery a long time ago. Is it just that he's trying to fight through it? He wants to play week 1 and he's trying everything he can and eventually realized he can't do it? Or, I mean because that's a huge setback.
Based on everything I heard, these guys are the peak of competitors that you can see. Like outside of Olympians, in a lot of cases, this is the peak of competition. And he did this exact same thing last year, trying to play through Drew Brees' last season, having an inkling that it was going to be the last time they had a shot with him. And then just felt this minor injury, just kept nagging him. And eventually, it reached that point where you can't run away from it anymore. You just have to say, I should have done this earlier, but I'm doing it now so that it doesn't bother me all throughout the season like this last injury did. I think I would have wished that he had done it back, in May or earlier, just to speed up that recovery timeline so that I have him for more of the season. But the fact that it was done now, optimistically, I'm hoping to have him back, let's say, beginning of October, so about 4 weeks in.
That makes sense. I sure hope that he's back to 100%. The one thing that I'm curious to see with New Orleans, and then we'll get into some more questions after this, I promise, but the one thing I'm curious to see is what happens with that quarterback situation, because it seemed like Jameis Winston was going to start the year as a starter. It seemed like every beat reporter indicated as much throughout May, June, early July even. And over the course of the last half a month, it seems like the tone has changed, and it seems more like, no, Taysom Hill is going to start. So do you think that changes at all how we value the receivers in New Orleans and even Alvin Kamara as a receiver?
Since I guess Hodge does have a receiver, I believe still, or is it you, Smith? Did he trade you Traquan Smith? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
So basically, Smith and I are the only ones that do have an active player on the Saints that's going to be starting, that will be affected by this QB situation, right?
I think Pete doesn't Pete
Well,
have Traquan?
in this I don't know who has Traquan. I don't really care about him. I don't pay attention to. I don't pay attention to.
Now I'm curious.
But I guess if you're, pointing this question towards me, since Michael Thomas can be out for 5 weeks, I'm not worried at all. I don't think his production will slow down in terms of touches. Maybe he'll get less chances on the goal line if it is like resting and they're like, oh, throw Taysom Hill in there because he's just a freak athlete and he's a bad white boy. But other than that, I still think Kamara is a top 6 running back in terms of fantasy points this year, and I'm excited for that. We did get a comment. It is switching the topic a little bit, but I did get a comment from Derek in our Twitch saying, I'm going to bend you over week 1, which I'm assuming that is pointing straight at Parker. So I would like to hear his response from that, because I think this is good to have a little, scrap shit talk happening in the podcast.
Derek, please don't hurt me. My spine is delicate and made of paper. If you bend me any which way, I will crumble like an origami swan.
Wow. Okay, there it is. Derek, stay away. Please don't hurt him. We need our little busboy to be good. He replied with the word no, so we'll see how that goes. But I did want to talk to and ask Haj a question about his team.
Yeah, what's up?
So you have Derrick Henry, you have Aaron Jones. I like the running back core. Are you scared that your depth in terms of lack of picks and possibly replacements for these players? I know you do have Clyde, but that's, he's solid, obviously. But coming on the end of the terms of Derrick Henry and Aaron Jones, maybe in, say, 2 or 3 years, because I do believe they have great seasons this year. Are you trying to look to flip them during the season, next season? Like you got no picks, or you do have a little bit, but not enough to replace those 2 guys, especially to have a major role on your team, to then go and hope for a rookie to fill in that big piece. So what's your take on that?
Well, the 2 first-rounders that I do have in the upcoming year is Leo's pick and Parker's pick. So I'm hoping that those fall in the top 6 of the draft. Okay. Derrick Henry, I'm going to keep my running backs with Derrick Henry and Aaron Jones as long as I'm in contention. If I fall out of contention, maybe a week or 2 before the trade deadline, I'll look to move Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry has 1 year left before he can actually opt out of his contract. And he has a lot of dead cap money that really the team can't cut him with. It's too much for their budget, I guess. So he probably has at least 1 year left. Aaron Jones just got signed this year for 4 years, $40 million, but yet again, it's like 2 years he has guaranteed left on his contract. So I'll look to keep him for at least one more year. But like I said, if I'm out of contention and there's a good offer on the table, I'll look to flip them. Luckily, I made the move for Clyde, so that gives me insurance and at least one running back for next year. But with one of my 2 picks next year, I'm hoping to draft at least one running back. So I have a safety cushion for now with those RBs, so I'm not too worried about them moving forward.
I have a question for Haj then on Aaron Jones. So when all of the Aaron Rodgers turmoil was happening, and Smith, feel free to chime in, being the owner of Aaron Rodgers, excuse me. Did you feel that should Rodgers have left Green Bay, whether it be retirement or being traded to another team, were you afraid of the Aaron Jones value just dropping like a rock? And are you afraid then, because Aaron Rodgers only has 1 year officially left on this contract, that you're going to be in the same boat next year with that situation?
So I definitely was worried about Aaron Jones's value, but over the years, Aaron Jones has been like one of the most efficient running backs. So I wasn't too worried. I knew that his if anything, to be honest, if he got a worse quarterback, yes, his running yards probably would have diminished, but he would have picked up more receptions maybe in dump offs, you know. So I wasn't too sure which way Aaron Jones was going to trend, because I mean in our PPR league you get a dump down that's an extra point. So I wasn't too sure. I was a little worried, but not too worried, you know.
Sure.
You know, I think also, like, I don't think we're talking enough about Jamal Williams leaving, because he soaked up a lot of targets out of the backfield. And look, I'm a proud A.J. Dillon owner. I love the guy, but he's not going to be a receiving back. So who are you relying on to be that 1B back that can receive? Kylan Hill? It's possible. Andy, I think, owns Kylan Hill. But I think even if Aaron Rodgers left, there was going to be ample opportunity for receptions out the backfield. And at that point, you're almost looking at a very similar situation to New Orleans, where, yeah, Aaron Jones is probably in that Alvin Kamara territory, not quite at that level, but very talented on a team that has a lot of good skilled players, but has a bit of a quarterback question mark. If Aaron Rodgers left, but I think Aaron Jones, regardless of who the quarterback is, he's still incredibly efficient. They still have a very good offensive line. So even if Aaron Rodgers had left, I think he would have been fine for this year and possibly even next year and the year after.
So I do have a question for Parker's team. Now that we're kind of digging into both Hodge and Parker's team. So your best quarterback is Trey Lance. We don't know if he's starting, right? He did have some reps, I believe, with the first team. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I think he did do pretty well based on that. However, it's still going to be a competition for that. And QB is a very important position. Obviously, in fantasy, could average you 20 to 25 points, and those are important points. You lost Carson Wentz. Obviously, that's a hit blow. You traded away Stafford. I think you traded away Ben Roethlisberger. So you got Taysom Hill, which I don't know what you could do with that. If it was a super flex, maybe. But as a starting quarterback, having Taysom Hill or Bridgewater, I feel like Trey Lance might be your better option if he does start. Obviously, who knows? But what's your mindset going in with not having a secure quarterback?
Sure. Just to cover a few of the points there. Trey Lance, as I understand it, coming from Shanahan, he's not going to be the starter this year. And he's not really going to be taking any reps with the first team just because there's no plans for him to supplant Jimmy Garoppolo. And I drafted him full well knowing that.
Okay.
I have always played fantasy with the mentality that the quarterback is fungible. I would be fully comfortable going into the season with Wentz coming back, let's say week 3 at the latest, and then having Taysom Hill or Teddy Bridgewater as just a 1-2 fill-in guy at quarterback. I've never really seen it to be the go-to position. I came in last, so do with that what you will. But I'm not too concerned with my current quarterback position. so long as Trey Lance does develop in the future, let's say 2-3 years from now, is at least starting him for the 49ers, which I do believe he will be.
Interesting. So you're kind of going in this as like, say, week 1, they're like, okay, Bridgewater's going to be the number 1 QB, but Taysom Hill's going to be on the bench. Okay, let me play Bridgewater. The next week, Taysom Hill's going to start. You're going to start, if they just keep swapping, you're just going to go with the news kind of thing, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean that's how I won the 2 other championships I have in the previous iterations of this league, was streaming a quarterback, and I've always done it in my fantasy career.
So,
wait, you won 2 championships? How did I not realize that?
I mean,
Wow.
Yeah, he did. We kind of split the pot in one of them, but that's nothing.
Hey man, you're not supposed to disclose that.
But I feel like streaming a quarterback in a redraft league is 100% different than in the dynasty league that we currently are in, because you can't really stream a quarterback in a dynasty league, as I don't really believe there's many options besides maybe Andy Dalton.
I mean, yeah, but that's assuming streaming contextually changes between redraft and fantasy. I am streaming one of the 4 QBs on my roster versus streaming 3 on the wire.
Correct.
Right.
And one of your 4 are completely trash, but I think that was your strategy. So I give you the best of luck with that position. Now, the other guy that I wanted to touch base is Deontay Johnson, because he's still having trouble catching the ball in practice, and that's practice. So what are you scared that he's not going to be able to catch the ball in the game? Like, I feel like he's your wide receiver, maybe 2 or 3. Like, he's going to be starting on your team, I believe. So, like, is that any concern to you that, like, this man's just not going to catch the ball and get you any points? Because we are in a PPR league, so you kind of have to catch the ball to get points.
Sure. Did he have this issue last year of dropping the ball?
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure he did. Yeah,
and
I'm pretty
how
sure
many
he did.
targets a game was he averaging, though?
I'm pretty sure he. I mean, that I could go look up right now, actually, in like 2 seconds. Let me.
I've got his stats up, actually.
Oh,
if you prefer.
If you have the stats, go ahead. Let me hear it.
Yeah, okay. So if we're just looking at targets, I can just say
he had a great. I mean, he does. I can
6,
see the
8,
targets.
9,
yeah,
6,
10, 15,
6, 12,
16,
8.
13.
Yeah.
I see all of them.
So let's assume he's averaging like
50%
a game.
Yeah, he's a 50%. He's at 50%. I think that's a good number, right?
50% what?
Reception rate.
Meaning like targets converted to receptions?
Yeah.
I mean, believe me, he is famous for dropping the ball a lot. He's also very young. This is one of the most coachable problems that you can fix for a wide receiver. So even if he's still struggling with dropping the ball, I think it's all mental. He's a really good wide receiver that gets a ton of separation constantly. Yep. He plays close to the line, but that he can also go outside. He's proven that just in the 2 years that he's been playing in Pittsburgh. So I'm not concerned long term for Deontay. I think he has some kind of mental barrier that he has to push through in order to be able to just not drop the ball on a consistent basis. And if we look at Pittsburgh as a whole, I think there's a lot of narratives that they're trying to push past, whether it be their bad offensive line play last year. It can only go up from how bad it was. Deontay Johnson dropping the ball constantly. I think it can only get better. I don't think he's realistically going to get worse than a 50% reception rate, Yeah. I expect that to get better.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, look, I think drops are kind of like the yips in baseball, where you just like have a period of time where you just struggle to throw the ball and you continually throw it into the ground, or you throw it, way off and the first baseman has to come off the bag, that happens. But if there's one thing that I've seen from all the research that I've done on Player Profiler, it's that drop rate year over year is not sustainable. Or rather, it's not a great predictor of the future because it's highly variable. So, yeah. So I think he's fine. He's a very talented receiver. Drops, I think, he has that subsequent hand size. He's got good catch radius. I think it's focus more than anything, and that kind of goes back into my analogy of it kind of being like the yips in baseball.
Gotcha. We do have another question in the chat. So this one's for Smith from Derek.
Derek, do you really want me to answer this question?
Yeah, listen. So, with the general trend of your offseason being forgoing 2021 success for building through the draft and trading for promising young talent, trading Ridley being the latest and greatest example, why on earth would you be holding Aaron Rodgers after a 37-year-old MVP season when you have Lisa Ann and QB 14? That is your question from Derek. You may
God, I hate him. So, Derek, that's a great question. Why would I hold Aaron Rodgers? Let me ask you guys this, right? Would you ever trade a player that you didn't think you were getting the correct value for? Regardless of what other people think, if you have a valuation on a player and you weren't getting what you wanted for him, would you trade that player?
Yes.
Okay. The correct answer is no. The correct answer is no.
Yes.
I mean, or you're left just
yeah.
holding the bag because you aren't willing to accept any offers out there. That's the flip side to that.
Oh, listen. Aaron Rodgers is very available, and that has been well advertised in this league. I am more than willing to trade Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is a very good quarterback. He's a very good football player. He's a very good fantasy player. He was number 2 in points scored last year. I'm not trading him for something I don't believe in. It's that simple. So just because I'm trying to get to be the youngest team doesn't mean I'm going to sell below what my valuation is of the player. If you have a question and you're questioning my valuation of the player, that's fine. But this idea I'm holding on to Aaron Rodgers because I want to is just not the case.
So my question would be: is what is Aaron Rodgers' value in your view?
Listen, I think he's worth a replacement quarterback that's young and intriguing and a pick. I think it depends where the pick is, obviously. I mean, look, if I could get a first for him, it's fantastic. I think in reality, I know that I'm looking more at a second round pick, especially looking at who else the quarterback is I'd be getting as a replacement. But I don't think that's crazy for someone that is a top 6, 7 quarterback this year, especially for where Derek is. I mean, good God, Matt Ryan, have fun with that.
I actually have a point to this that I find very interesting. I can't remember which of the fantasy programs are talking about it, but if you were to take Aaron Rodgers' astronomical TD rate that he had been, throwing out last year, and you bring it down to his career average, he actually drops from, it was like the QB2, or he was like top 5 QB in some way. He drops from that particular height that he was at down to like the QB 10 or 11. It's a huge drop.
And
so you
Sure.
Go ahead, Parker. Sorry.
No, I'm just throwing that out there in terms of like you're just banking on this QB that has a ton of tumult around him and is getting older, that he's able to repeat that MVP caliber performance that he had last season.
And Aaron Rodgers was our QB1 in Sleeper in terms of our points. So our point system, Aaron Rodgers was the QB1. So is he going to repeat that? Fuck no.
Listen, hold on a second. Hold on. We have 17 games, and I think if there's one quarterback who could do it, it would be Aaron Rodgers, because he is
old.
You have to account for Aaron Jones in the red zone. They have a very good and balanced offensive game. So whether it's him passing dump offs to Aaron Jones for a touchdown, him handing it off, or him throwing it to Devontae Adams or Robert Tonyan, it doesn't matter. The point is that it's a good offense with a really good quarterback. Is he going to score as many touchdowns as he did last year? Probably not. But even if he's a top 6 quarterback, I mean, that's going down 5 spots. That's not some crazy estimation. He's still a very good player. So even if his touchdowns go down by 5 touchdowns, he's still a highly valuable quarterback. So I don't want to hear it.
All right, so moving away from us, I do want to ask both of you a question, but I'm going to start with Haj. So we do have 1 month away from week 1, I believe. I think it's 1 month. It might be a month and a week. You're versing Pete. He's your rival. So week 1 we do rival week, and then week 14 is also the rivals. So you're going against your rival week 1. Are you nervous? Are you excited? Are you trying to figure out who's going to be your flex play, or do you have your lineup set right now? And if no injuries happen and everything stays the same, like your lineup that's in sleeper right now, that's staying, and that's your starting lineup. Like, what's your thought process going into week 1?
Yep. So the lineup that I have in sleeper right now, I'm gonna keep that for week 1. I became Pete's rival because I treated Justin Jefferson as a throw-in piece in our very first trade of last year.
Oh, that hurts, doesn't it?
That hurts really bad. And at that time, I didn't understand the value of rookie wide receivers and the impact it can have early on in their career. So that was a
Justin Jefferson also had like really bad reports in the fall. Like I remember something like he's not acclimated with the playbook. I somehow remember this coming up on a podcast from last year, and I was just like, I don't want anything to do with this guy. So I don't think you were the only person who felt that way, Haj. Don't feel bad.
It's like,
You're,
but no,
definitely feel bad. Definitely feel bad.
Yeah, I'm gonna feel bad. It still
Fair
burns me to
enough,
this day. But I'm not nervous. I mean, no offense to Pete, but his RB1 is probably RB20 out of all of the running backs in the league right now. So Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones, and CEH, I'm hoping to outscore at least his running backs and tight end by themselves.
So you're looking forward to the matchup, is what you're saying?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
I'm looking for a 50-piece week 1.
50-piece week 1. What are you changing his name to right now? Go.
Wow.
And if it can't be said on this, then you can hold it. But I'm pretty sure you could probably say
the kings of Queens peasants. That's what it's gonna be.
Oh my lord! Yeah, it's kind of weak.
Wow.
Put some thought into that one. Put some thought into that one. Parker. With Derek in the chat, I believe. Who knows if he's still watching? He probably is because he's a loyal fan. You do play Derek the loser in week 1. He is your rival, so I like the trash talk already. He is in the chat. He gave a heart. You're up against Derek week 1 right now. Obviously, projections mean kind of nothing in terms of fantasy because projections are just a fake number. But to throw it out there, you are projected to lose by like 24 points or 22 points, excuse me. Do you think you're going to win? Is your lineup set? Are you going to change some things? I know that your quarterback is probably not set because that is kind of just going off on a limb. But other than that, what are you expecting?
Guys, there comes a time in every fantasy league's life when you just have to drop 200 on somebody. And it's not going to feel good when I have to do it to Derek in week 1 and then I believe in week 14 again. But sometimes you just got to end somebody's entire fantasy career. And Derek, I'm sorry, it's going to be a 200 piece. And I think you have to legally change your name if that happens, according to the rules. But I sorry in advance.
Wow. That's it. Okay.
Before we move on, can we list out our starting lineups for week 1?
If you would like to, yeah, go ahead. Have fun with it.
So my starting lineup for week 1 would be Matthew Stafford at QB playing Chicago Sunday night football game. At running back 1, I have Derrick Henry. Running back 2, I have Aaron Jones. Wide receiver 1, Robert Woods. Wide receiver 2, Tyler Lockett. Tight end, Austin Hooper. Flex 1, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And flex 2, Deebo Samuel. My kicker is Matt Gay, and my defense is the Colts.
Wow. Why are you laughing? That's weird. So Colts against Seattle. That's going to be an interesting matchup. I kind of respect it. I think the Colts defense is pretty good, but that offense is trash, so you might want to switch that out. Just saying. Parker, you don't have to do your lineup unless you want to. But I did.
Yeah, no, I can go.
Go ahead.
So I'm going to be playing Teddy Bridgewater or Carson Wentz in QB. Then I'm going to play Kalen Ballage at starting running back, followed up by DJ Dallas in the second running back slot.
Stop.
Then I'm going to be playing Michael Thomas because he's going to come back from the injury halfway through the game, like a Rudy situation at my starting wide receiver.
I agree.
Yep. And then Trey Lance isn't going to start at QB. He's going to start at wide receiver. So he's in the second wide receiver slot.
I did hear that news, actually,
Yep,
that they're going to be switching his position. I respect that so much.
And then, ready for this curveball?
Let me hear
George
it.
Kittle's going to get the flu that week. So I'm going to play this new up-and-comer 2022 second round at my starting tight end because I've heard really good news out of camp.
That's amazing. Okay, so
And
George...
then the rest of the lineup, leave it out.
Leave it out. Okay, so George
Yeah.
Kittle getting the flu, and you're assuming that, but I'm thinking that it's not just an assumption; it's more of a plan that you're actually going to contract the flu and give it to him via, kissing or something like that. So is that maybe? I mean, you don't have to tell me because that kind of ruins the plan and ruins the surprise. So we'll leave that out. But I feel where you're coming with that, and that may benefit your team a lot to 200 piece, Derek, because that's the only way to win. Smith,
Yeah.
take it away.
I don't know how to go off of that, but we'll try. All right. Guys, I want you to name one player that you think on your team is going to elevate themselves from last year to this year.
It's a good one.
Which of my injured players should I pick for this answer?
You know what? I think staying on brand. I think DJ Dallas is the answer here, right? Right, Parker?
It's George Kittle for sure, just because he spent so much time last
Oh.
season injured.
Oh, it's not going to be Bucker? It's not going to be a kicker?
Nope, it's going to be his name is George Kittle. I can spell it if you want.
Can you spell it, please? I have to look this up real quick. I need to find his profile.
I actually can't spell, so my bad.
Fuck. Okay. I think it's Keetl. Okay.
Sounds
Found
right.
it. Yeah, found it. So over Michael Thomas, you're thinking that George Kittle will have a more impactful bounce back from last year.
I think either of them are a good choice. With George Kittle being available week 1 as it stands right now, knock on wood, cross your fingers, do whatever you need to do. I'm very excited to finally get to have him in full force in my lineup. Versus, I'm super excited for Michael Thomas to come back. It's just going to take a few weeks. So that's why I think Kittle kind of took priority in the order of operations there.
Got it. Now, I did want to ask you this question, which I believe Smith probably asked you at the draft day interview. But how does it feel to have 2 of the top 5 picks in the rookie 2021 draft and drafting Najee Harris and Jamar Chase?
Who, by the way, can we just preface that by saying he somehow mind control Derek into thinking that he was actually taking Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, so maybe take us through kind of a quick snippet, maybe not 30 seconds. Give us like a minute or two of like your whole thought process of getting the manipulation on Derek while also securing Harris and Chase.
And did you have any intention of drafting Kyle Pitts 101?
Sure. Okay, so obviously it started off as a joke. I had the 101 having come in last place. Derek had traded into a position where he had the 102 and really wanted to take Kyle Pitts. I floated the idea just a few times that I was interested in taking Pitts at 1, and I think Derek, being fully confident in every position top to bottom in his lineup, because it was really good. He just got hit with a few little injuries here and there. Really just one major injury that kind of just ruined his lineup for a little bit. But I was able to just kind of seed that doubt. And I don't really think he was ever truly bought into the idea that I was taking Pitts. I think he just wanted the sense of security that comes with being at 101 over 102. So I at 102, after the Cam Akers injury, because Derek's roster obviously included Cam Akers as a focal point until he tore his Achilles, I had fully prepared myself to either be drafting Kyle Pitts or Najee at 102 versus at 101, I was pretty interested in Najee from the beginning. I had said to Derek early on in the process that if Najee went anywhere but the Steelers, I would be fine trading the 101. But it was because he went to the Steelers that I was so interested in having him, because I love how Mike Tomlin utilizes a running back. He loves having a bell cow. And Najee just has such a good 3-down skill set coming from Alabama, being able to go right between the tackles, being able to take a run outside, being a really good receiving option for any QB. And then also an underrated aspect of his game, being a pretty good pass blocker, which I think is going to be pretty important with that Steelers O-line that's kind of going through a rebuild phase. I think that's one of the reasons why the Steelers took Freiermuth in whatever round that they did. That way they just have a few bodies that can be kind of Swiss Army knives when they're out there. Freiermuth's a really good receiving tight end. He's also a really good blocker. Najee can do it all and block.
I mean, I hope they would use Najee in the passing game extensively, because when I watched his film, I watched like every down for like 3 games. That dude is a really good pass catcher. So I hope he's actually not pass blocking, because that means he's not going on routes. But yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean,
And to get back to the question of having a 102 and 105, it feels really good, guys. I can't recommend it enough. If you can never do it, just do it. It's really fun.
Awesome. I like that answer. I like it. Haj, I got a couple.
Yes, sir.
I got 2 questions for you, Haj.
Yep.
So actually, we'll go 3. We'll go 3. So if you can remember all of them, do it. If you can't, hopefully I will.
Just do one at a time.
No. All right, fine. I'll do one at a time. So the first question is, how or what made you want to give away 2 first-round picks in Bucker for Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Why do you like
So-
him? Kind of what's
So Clyde Edwards-Helaire, if I'm not mistaken, finished running back 10 last year. No, I lied. 22. No, but he started off the season really strong before the Le'Veon Bell signing. And the Chiefs' offensive line last year took a hit. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire is now turning 22, I believe,
Yep, he
going
is.
into his second season.
Mhm.
So knowing that he would have 3 years left on his contract and the Chiefs improved their offensive line this year, I'm like, okay, there's only one way to go but up. So I was like, you know what? If I'm going to make an investment into a young player, I might as well pay a premium and at least give up 1 pick. If I give up 1 pick for for Clyde, I won't need a running back to replace him for another 3 years at least. So 1 pick wasn't going to hurt. And neither was 2. I gave up a high pick. One of the picks were Dan's pick, which is probably projected to be a top 4 pick this year coming up. So if I was to draft a running back, it would probably be with the top 4, one of those picks there. So I'd rather have an established running back that's proven in the league than try to risk it and go through the draft. So if I had to give up 2 picks, I mean, I had 3 first-rounders left within the next 2 years. So I was willing to make that investment.
Awesome.
You know, it's funny because this trade is almost like a full circle for you, Haj, because you traded the 101, who was bound to be Clyde Edwards-Helaire, to Parker. And that's kind of how that season unfolded.
That's right.
So, bit of a full circle there.
Yeah.
Right. And if I knew better at that time, I probably wouldn't have traded that 101.
Of course not. Of course.
You
not.
got a good deal, though. I mean, I have to go back and see what it was, but if I recall, it was a pretty
was
good
Zack
deal.
I did. I drafted.
It was Zach Ertz and Justin Jefferson, I think, were the 2 pieces that he got.
Oh,
from that.
God.
And-
God.
And
Oh.
Burrow. I got
Oh,
Burrow.
no.
So
Oh, God.
So moving on to the second question, I do have it's kind of a double question, and then the other one's at the end because it's kind of a hit. But so you have Tyler Boyd and you got Christian Kirk on your bench. I know those kind of been your secure depth pieces at wide receiver, although you've been trying to ship Christian Kirk to almost everyone in the league. What is kind of your thought process with both of them? I know Jamar Chase obviously just joined the team over in the Bengals, and then you got Christian Kirk, who might start, who knows, because AJ Green is kind of a goat, because obviously it was Burrow who was bad and not AJ Green.
Right. I mean, Right now, with Tyler Boyd, I think he's a little bit of a sleeper, and I believe people are over exaggerating the impact that Chase is going to have right away. The Bengals are a team that throw the ball a lot. They're going to throw the ball at least 40 times a game, and I believe that all three wide receivers in Higgins, Boyd, and Chase will get their fair share. Plus, Boyd will be in the slot, so I mean that's a good opportunity for him. Boyd is not going anywhere. Boyd has a hefty contract. They can probably cut him next year, but it wouldn't make sense to cut him now. So I know that he'll have some kind of role in the team. Christian Kirk, on the other hand, I mean, hey, that's an extra piece on the bench to try to flip, you know. So he's young. AJ Green has an injury history. Rondell Moore is a rookie, so I mean, he's promising, but nothing's guaranteed until we see him play on the field. So I'm hoping that when I need them in certain weeks to fill in a flex spot or two, that they'll be able to produce.
You know who was number 32 in targets in the NFL last year?
Who?
It was AJ Green. So he was third, I think, on the team. I need to see.
See,
But he had 104 targets last year, and that's like a lot of targets that's vacated. So this idea that Jamar Chase is going to steal work from T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd has to be the stupidest argument. I think it's a lazy argument, honestly, because where are those 100+ targets going to go? CJ Uzma or whatever his name is?
Mixon.
Come on. Yeah, possibly Mixon, but okay, we're talking about what, 25 targets there?
No, all 104.
So
All of them.
So then, are you also then saying that they drafted a guy over offensive line help in the top 5 pick to not feed all of the targets that AJ Green is vacating towards Jamar Chase, who already has a rapport with Burrow, who has already displayed the fact that he is an alpha number 1 wide receiver?
That's what I'm saying. I think a huge majority of those targets will be going to Jamar Chase. Do not get me wrong. He might even steal a couple targets from Higgins and Boyd and Mixon. But I don't think it's enough to degrade Higgins and Boyd like they were when the draft came around. And by the way, a bit of a running joke, they should have drafted Penny Sewell. But I think this idea that Higgins and Boyd are going to drop and even Mixon are going to drop is, I think it's just lazy analysis, honestly, because that's a lot of vacated targets.
Yeah. So my last and final question for you, Haj, right now, I guess. So this player was up in the air. We didn't know where they were going. We thought they were going to get traded. We thought they were going to get dropped. No one traded for him. No one wanted him. The Bills didn't want him. Now he's stuck on the Eagles. You got Zack Gertz at tight end. Like, what do you... I know you were praying that he got traded. I think a lot of people were expecting him to get traded. But now it seems like he's staying with the Eagles. Are you maybe a little bit happy that he's committed to the Eagles and the Eagles are committed to him? Because he was a top target. He's not a bad tight end. Like, he's still a good tight end. But or are you scared the fact that there was this miscommunication over the offseason and everyone thought he was getting traded? Now he's stuck on the team. What's your thought? Like, what are you looking and hoping that happens with him?
Well, I know that if the Eagles are keeping him, they'll probably run a 2 tight end set, so he will be somewhat relevant. But I wish he was on another offense. But as far as trading Zack Gertz, I mean, I'm going to hold him until next year. He's going to be a free agent, turning, I believe, 32. Tight ends usually last until like 35, 36. So, I mean, hopefully a team would be able to sign Zack Gertz for a cheaper price than what the Eagles are wanting in a trade for. And yeah, man, I have Austin Hooper as my starting tight end. And I mean, Hooper didn't have a great season last year, but they're working on his chemistry with Baker Mayfield. So, if anything, if Zack Gertz does show out this year, I have him as a second tight end to put in my rotation. But for now, I'm going to hold him and hope for the best.
Okay. Now, for those that are listening via, just voice and on a podcast here, Parker did make a couple faces there when Haj was speaking on Zack Gertz. So I kind of want to bring him into this just to hear his thought process and have a response and a rebuttal to what Haj has said.
Sure, yeah. Just coming back on my earlier point of Hodge being bad at running a fantasy football team, I fully just. If you look at the expiration date on tight ends, yes, there are tight ends that have lasted after the age of 30, but it's such a small number, especially with how big their bodies are and how much of a beating that they take on a regular basis. I think Zack Ertz is washed. I think that because it's Nick Sirianni, I believe, is coming over to the Eagles, correct? From the
Yes.
Colts. Yeah, so he's also he's a Frank Reich disciple. That would mean that he's also a disciple of Super Bowl winning coach Peterson, is it?
Doug Peterson, yeah.
For the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
Philly.
Yep.
Yeah, Doug Peterson, thank you, yeah. And they're both huge advocates for the tight end position. But I don't think that because Nick Sirianni is a Peterson and Reich disciple, that it just immediately means that he's going to be using 2 tight end sets, because I don't think that that's a foregone conclusion at this point. I think Zack Gertz is bad, and I think Hodge is bad.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to comment on the Hodge thing, but I think Parker makes a good point, and I think part of the reason why Frank Reich is such a good and revered coach, look at how they used tight ends last year with Jack Doyle and Trey Perkins. They weren't heavily utilized. What did they do? They built that offense around the team's strength, which was their very strong offensive line. They had a really good running game. They had a lot of receptions out of the backfield. Nyheim Hines was super active. Jonathan Taylor was super active toward the end of the year. And you couldn't really rely on Phillip Rivers to throw the ball down the field or have much mobility to get out of the pocket. So they built that offense around a really strong offensive line. So I think this idea that they're bound to use tight ends is, I don't know if that's the case. I think that he's very good at revolving the offense around what he has. And Nick Sirianni, coming from that lineage, I'd like to think he uses that same thought process. With that in mind, Zack Ertz is not a strength anymore, to Parker's point. He's not a weakness, but to expect him to be anything close to what he was, I think, is fool's gold at this point.
Well, yeah, but I've never said that I was expecting him to be a top 5.
Oh, no, I'm not. I'm more so agreeing with Parker's point that I don't think he is fantasy relevant. And one last thing I do want to throw out there. I've noticed that, to Parker's point, tight ends really don't last at 35. We're getting some exceptions to the rule now with Rob Gronkowski and Travis Kelce as they're getting up in their 30s. They're kind of the exception, but they're also 2 of the best tight ends to ever play the game. So when you look at like other tight ends that are a tier below or even another tier below that, kind of where Zack Ertz is, I think that kind of explains it. At least that's my opinion.
Well, Zack Gertz is 1 year removed from being a top 3 tight end. Last year, he was in a horrific offense. Last year, we can all agree that the Eagles were a horrific offense. He had an ankle injury that had him sidelined, and he hasn't turned 31 yet. And I can name 3 tight ends right now that are under 35 or approaching 35, or not even, maybe even older than 35, that had successful careers up until that point. So to say that he's washed, I'm not expecting, like I said, he's not my starting tight end. I don't expect him to do much this year, but I will hold him till next free agency because someone will pick him up. So, like, Jason Witten came out of retirement, did okay. Jimmy Graham was utilized, did okay. Jared Cook just got signed to the Chargers. He's 35. Zack Ertz was one to top 3 tight end. His career is not over. He's not even 31 yet. So to hold him for the future might be worth it, but who knows? But I'm not.
Is he really not even 31 yet?
Bro, he's 30. So
wow.
I'm not going to count him out.
It feels like he's 35. It feels like he's been around for 15 years.
He's that stuff. So we are coming towards the hour mark, and I just want to thank you guys for coming in to speak about your team and everything. And I'm going to be asking this question to everyone when they come on. And the question is, because we do punishments in this league for whoever's in last place, we punish them, right? So my question is, who do you think is who do you think is your real pick, and then who is your hot take, oh, I can see it happening type of pick to become last place? And then whoever wants to start, they can start. but Parker's screen keeps freezing, so I can't tell if he's here or not. So I guess Haj, you can start off.
My realistic pick of who's going to come in last place this year is Dan Johnson. Losing McCaffrey, and I believe his starting running back right now is Kareem Hunt.
David Johnston.
Kareem Hunt and David Johnson.
Yeah,
I think
Kareem Hunt and David Johnson. So, I mean, that's going to be rough for this year. But hopefully he can make his last place finish worthwhile if that happens with his first rounder next year. But a hot take, to be honest, I can see myself coming in last place if I get a few injuries. You know?
I said the same thing. If Haj decides to sell because he's got that difficult schedule to start out the season, I could see where he trades everyone and tanks.
So we're gonna be watching Haj eat dinner with a sex doll.
No.
Yes, I got it.
That's not happening. Even if I come in last place, I'm not doing it.
Whoa.
You know,
you
that's not
you can't be saying that to the commissioner right now. You can't be saying that to me. That's not All right, we'll skip that one. Parker, if you're here, your screen is still frozen. But what is your who do you think will be in last place, and who's your hot take to be in last place?
Sure. Am I here? Can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay.
Just can't see you.
Okay. I don't know why.
It's fine. Just get it.
I think, Dan and Pete are both just pushing back and forth to see who can make the worst team. So we'll see between the two of them who's got it locked up. I think Leo getting Calvin Ridley helps him push past that bottom tier. He's in like just above the bottom tier. He and I are in the same tier right now.
Okay.
But
I would agree with
hot
that,
take for who's coming in last, if cards fall as they do. Yeah, Haj, I've thought your team for a while just because I think you got the base of your castle is running backs that have a ton of miles on them, and all it takes is one injury that becomes a lagging injury, and so I've thought for a while Haj is the dark horse to come in last.
Yep. Timeout. I must have missed this over the week, but when the hell did Calvin Ridley get traded, and what was the deal?
It happened today.
It happened today.
You were
I was on the road.
Haj, you were driving, Haj, and I'll let me just pull up the transition. Even though we do have the Smith here who traded Calvin Ridley. So the trade was between Smith and Leo, and Leo traded away Chase Claypool and Travis Etienne for Calvin Ridley and Nyheim Hines. That was it. That was the trade. And that was it. Straight up. No picks, no fab, no nothing. Just 2 for 2 players.
So that's why we were talking about Claypool earlier.
Yeah. So, and that was a very...
You're probably like, why are we talking about Chase Claypool right now?
Exactly. Why are we talking about Claypool?
So, we do have 7 viewers on the Twitch right now, so I don't know if people are still listening in, if they just have it in the background, but I do want to open up for a quick questionnaire for any 4 of us here. If anyone has questions, if they want advice on their team, if they want to ask us questions. I know most of them are probably in the league, so if they want to just roast us, they can, or they can ask us.
Wait, were you going to let Haj roast that trade for both me and Leo?
I mean, if he
Tell us how it's a mutually terrible trade.
Yeah, no, while there's questions going to pool in, if they do pool in, you can talk.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Leo wasn't high on ETN from the start, so I see his reasoning why he would want to upgrade from ETN to Ridley, especially if ETN was probably going to be one of his flex players. But Smith, that's a good deal. That's a good deal. I mean,
yeah. I heard like someone make a joke like Calvin Johnson was Megatron and Chase Claypool is like Mapletron because he's like physically the closest thing to Calvin Johnson in this generation from like the measurements and like his speed.
Okay.
And he's from Canada, so I thought that was pretty good. I don't think he's anything close to Calvin Johnson, but
was gonna say, don't disrespect
No,
Parker's
absolutely no.
star
Keep
team like
Calvin
that.
Johnson's name out your mouth.
Out your fucking mouth. Keep it out your
If
mouth.
only he had Joe Flacco, the best quarterback ever, throwing to him, man.
So we did get a question. It is towards Smith, and I think I already know the answer.
Badger is on a hot streak today.
And I think the answer is yes. But his question is, will Smith's kicker carry his team again this year? And I'm going to go ahead and say yes. I think everyone disrespected me when I said that Smith's kicker and defense carried his team to second place.
It absolutely did. Listen, I'm not sitting here denying it. It's a part of the team, and I happen to have the best kicker and the best defense. I don't understand. If it's not going to be a part of the league in the future, so be it. But you can't complain. It is a part of the league.
So technically, you had the second best kicker and the third best defense. So I don't know if you're going to want to say that you had the best, but yeah.
Okay, fine. It's fine. Even second and third, I will take. So.
Okay.
Badger, it's better that I get a defense and kicker carry my team into the playoffs than Badger blowing it there the last week with his team. So, Yonkers, Badger.
Yep. Derek did say Koo will make him get a middling pick instead of a top 3.
What?
Who
will make him get a middling
pick instead of top 3? So instead of you being the bottom 3 teams, Koo will help you be like 5th. Yeah. Or like 8th or 9th.
Derek, we gotta work on the grammar though, bud.
No. Do you guys have any final thoughts? Do you guys have questions for us? Do you guys have little insights? Do you guys want to touch base on your team a little bit more or anything like that before we kind of close out the episode 2?
I have one quick point and then I'll drop, and Haj, feel free to jump in right after. Vinny, there's been reports around the league that Haj is a bad manager, doesn't really know what he's doing in fantasy football. If you could just respond to some of those claims. But besides that, thanks for having me. Have a good one.
All right. So my whole thing, if I'm going to really answer this question, and if he's listening in on Twitch, the way I see it with managers and trying to run the best league possible, obviously not every owner is going to have a different mindset, but I am trying to make sure everyone is in the dynasty mindset. So as long as you're kind of building up your team future and you're not kind of just slacking and trying to win now and then eventually be shit because all your guys are old and you got nothing to fall back on, then you're good. But I'm definitely keeping an eye on the league to make sure that everyone is staying somewhat competitive with their team. Obviously, there's people that you're like, oh, this team sucks. But right now, I can't really judge Pete's decisions on making his team and throwing away starting players for second or
round
third
picks.
strings, because he did win last year. So I can't really judge his decisions yet, but if it does turn out that it starts to spiral down, I might have to jump in to kind of touch base, make sure he's learning and kind of building up. But he did win, so I can't say anything right now. I gotta respect him.
Sometimes the blind squirrel finds the nut.
Everyone does value players differently, yes, Badger. However, if you're valuing a player less than what they should be, and if you're not building towards fantasy, things got to change if you're not building towards a fantasy league, because Dynasty for us, sorry, I've been saying fantasy, I meant Dynasty the whole time. Dynasty for us is going to be staying, and I think that's going to be the format that we're going to be playing in for the rest of the league, and who knows how long that may be. So yeah, any final thoughts, Saj, on anything you want to speak on your team, any future guesses, any shit talk, any call outs?
The only thing I gotta say is Parker needs to go send some letters to Pittsburgh, send some letters to New Orleans, and send some letters to San Francisco, because if they're not performing, I got his pick next year. That's all I gotta say.
Ooh.
That's all I gotta say.
Well, look, if his prophecy is true of ninth place, you got what is that?
You got a ninth pick. You
fourth overall.
You're gonna be getting a nice pick. Yeah.
That's Travis. That's Travis Etienne there, homie.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully something a little bit more valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah, never. Travis Etienne to the moon, man.
Yeah, you're just saying that because
I
you're
mean-
biased.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, so if we don't really have any more questions, I mean, if we want to close it out, we can. It's been over an hour, so it's a nice little podcast, a little session on the Twitch, and it was a good discussion to get to know your team and let everyone know about your team, and then obviously Parker as well, but he had to drop real quick. But it's good to start that off. We are a month away, so anything that happens between now and a month, good luck. I hope it is in your favor.
Perfect one.
And I hope
Shout
it
out
all
to Dom
works.
Barbado, by the way, for the gift. What did he do up there? I
What?
think he gifted you.
No,
Dom Barbado.
no, you're looking at something different. That was a while ago.
It was okay.
Yeah,
My mistake.
yeah.
All right, never mind, Dom.
That
Screw
was
you,
that
bro.
was probably 2 years ago. Yeah. But yeah, it was good to have you on. I look forward to the season. I will beat you like I did last year, Haj, because I ruined your undefeated season last year. And if you're undefeated again, I'll make you.
I thought
lose it.
I thought I ruined it by 50 piecing him, or was
I'm
that the
pretty-
second loss?
I'm pretty sure that was the second. I'm pretty sure I gave him his first loss because I was hyped about it the whole time.
Okay.
So if you're undefeated again, I'll look forward to beating you again.
Yep.
But other than that, good luck with the season. And obviously, this won't be the last time you'll be on the podcast because this is our league, and this is our podcast. But thank you for hopping in. I appreciate
No
it.
problem. Thank you for having me. And hey, you never know, you might be the recipient of Derrick Henry week 8. So hit me up.
Oh, I mean, I am.
We know who's not getting Derrick Henry if everything goes well. It's not Parker.
I am trying to win. So, all right. Well, I think
All
that's
right,
a good way to end it out. Good luck with this off season, and look forward to the season.
Yes, sir.
It's gonna be fun.